Welcome back to Historia Prime. Every single person watching this has seen it. You get back to your car after a long, hot afternoon. You open the door, and there it is, a greasy, milky film fogging up the inside of your windshield. You grab a cloth, wipe it off, and 2 weeks later, it's back. You probably assumed it was dust or condensation or some mystery residue from the air freshener hanging on your mirror. It's none of those things. That film is your dashboard dying. What you're wiping off the glass is the slow chemical bleeding of plasticizers, the internal conditioning agents that keep your dashboard soft and flexible, evaporating out of the plastic every time the cabin heats up. Your car's interior is literally sweating itself to death in the sun. And for the past 60 years, the product most people reach for to fix this problem has been making it worse. Not because it was designed to deceive anyone, the chemistry is more interesting than that. But to understand why, we have to go much further back than 1962. We have to go back to the people who understood material preservation better than anyone alive today. Part 1. The Lost Science of Deep Preservation. Before synthetic polymers, before silicone sprays and detailing shops, human survival depended on one brutally simple skill: keeping your gear alive. A Roman legionnaire marching through the deserts of North Africa carried leather sandals, a leather belt, a leather scabbard, and a leather-backed shield. If any of those items cracked, dried out, or split in the field, he didn't pull into a supply depot. He was hundreds of miles from Rome. Cracked leather meant exposed skin, compromised grip, a shield that could shatter on the first impact. It could mean death. So what did they do? Roman soldiers were issued animal tallow, rendered fat, as a standard part of their kit. Not for eating, for rubbing into every piece of leather they carried. The fat didn't just make the surface look shiny, it physically soaked into the porous fibers, replacing the natural oils that the sun and wind stripped away every single day. Jump forward 18 centuries to the American frontier. Pioneers crossing the Great Plains faced the same problem on a different scale. Leather saddles, harnesses, wagon covers, even the wooden wheel spokes. All of it dried out in the relentless prairie sun. They used neatsfoot oil, bear grease, and rendered tallow for the same reason the Romans did. True preservation means nourishing material from the inside out. The principle was universal. Every culture that depended on natural materials understood it. You don't paint a shiny coat over a dying surface. You feed the material at the structural level. You replace what the environment steals. Now here's the important distinction most people miss, and this is where the modern confusion begins. Leather and wood are organic, porous materials. They have a cellular structure that genuinely absorbs oils deep into their fibers. When our ancestors rubbed tallow into a saddle, the fat physically entered the leather matrix and restored its flexibility from within. Modern car interiors are not leather. They're engineered synthetic polymers, primarily PVC, polyvinyl chloride, and they operate on fundamentally different chemistry. Understanding that difference is the key to understanding everything that follows. Part 2. What your dashboard is actually made of. PVC in its raw natural state is rigid and brittle. It's the same base material used in hard plumbing pipes. To make it soft enough for a car dashboard, manufacturers inject the polymer with chemical conditioning agents called plasticizers, typically compounds from the phthalate family like DINP or DIDP. These plasticizers sit between the rigid polymer chains like molecular spacers. They're what give your dashboard, door panels, and console covers that soft, slightly yielding feel when you press on them. But here's the problem that every materials scientist knows and almost no car owner has ever been told. Plasticizers are not permanently bonded to the plastic. Every time you park your car in direct sunlight, the cabin temperature can climb past 70 degrees Celsius. That's over 160 Fahrenheit. At those temperatures, plasticizer molecules gain enough energy to migrate out of the polymer matrix. Research shows that plasticizer migration roughly doubles in speed for every 10 degrees Celsius increase in temperature. That greasy windshield film? That's plasticizer volatilization. The molecules are literally evaporating out of your dashboard and condensing on the cooler glass surface. Over months and years, as more plasticizers escape, the PVC loses its flexibility. It fades. It turns chalky and grey. Eventually, it becomes brittle, cracks, and there's no reversing that damage. The plasticizers are gone. You can't put them back. This is the real disease, and for 6 decades, the most popular treatment has been addressing the wrong symptom entirely. Part 3. The Rise of the Black Bottle. In 1962, a California polymer chemist named Joe Polcher developed a milky formula that made rubber, plastic, and vinyl look like new. By 1966, it was being sold in small bottles under the name Tridon, no dirt spelled backwards, at a specialty car shop in Southern California. In 1972, a marketing-savvy entrepreneur named Alan Rapinski bought the rights to the product and renamed it Armor All. And for the next 5 decades, it became the single most recognized car care product in America. But what does Armor All actually do? The primary active ingredient is polydimethylsiloxane, PDMS, a silicone-based polymer. In modern formulations, it's delivered as a water-based emulsion, which is a significant improvement over the harsher, solvent-based versions sold in the 1970s and 80s. But the fundamental mechanism hasn't changed. Silicone is a surface coating agent. The molecule is too large to penetrate into the PVC matrix. Instead, it sits on top of the surface, filling microscopic texture irregularities to create a smooth, highly reflective layer. That's the source of the wet, glossy look. For a few days, the dashboard looks dark, rich, and pristine. Then the silicone layer begins to degrade under heat and UV exposure. The coating becomes slightly tacky. Dust particles adhere to the sticky surface. As the coating breaks down unevenly, the original faded plastic shows through in patches. That white residue you see trapped in the textured grooves of your dashboard, that isn't dirt, it's oxidized silicone residue. Now, and this is important, the Armor All silicone layer does provide some UV screening. The modern water-based formula is not the dashboard destroyer that the old solvent-based versions were in the 1970s. The widespread belief that Armor All causes dashboard cracking is largely a myth born from that earlier era, when both the product chemistry and the dashboard materials themselves were inferior. But here's what the silicone layer cannot do. It cannot replace the plasticizers that are migrating out of your dashboard. It sits on top of a surface that is slowly dehydrating from within. It's cosmetic treatment for a structural problem. So why has Armor All dominated the market for so long if the solution is incomplete? Not because of any conspiracy. The answer is economics. Silicon-based protectants are cheap to manufacture, instantly gratifying to use, and create a visible before and after that photographs well. The product does exactly what it promises. It makes surfaces look shiny. The fact that shininess and structural health are two completely different things is a distinction that doesn't fit on a label. Part 4. The baby oil phenomenon. This brings us to the viral trick that has taken the internet by storm. Using baby oil, which is simply mineral oil with a light fragrance, to restore faded car interiors. The logic sounds appealing. Mineral oil is a lightweight petroleum-based product. Unlike silicone, it's a smaller molecule. The theory is that it can partially absorb into the surface layer of aged PVC rather than just sitting on top, achieving something closer to what our ancestors did with tallow on leather. And cosmetically it works. A thin application of mineral oil on a faded dashboard will darken it dramatically, filling micro-surface irregularities and matching the refractive index of the polymer to restore a deep, rich, factory-like appearance. It won't leave the white residue that silicone does. It costs under $5 for a bottle at any pharmacy. But before you grab a spray bottle, there are critical problems with this approach that the viral videos never mention. First, mineral oil provides absolutely zero UV protection. The #1 environmental threat to your car's interior is ultraviolet radiation pouring through the windshield glass. Silicone-based products at least offer some UV screening. Mineral oil offers none. You're conditioning a surface while leaving it completely defenseless against the very thing destroying it. Second, baby oil does not mix with water. Some videos recommend a 30-to-70 ratio of baby oil to water in a spray bottle to create an emulsion. This is chemically misleading. Oil and water do not form a stable emulsion without a surfactant, an emulsifying agent. If you shake baby oil and water together, they will separate within minutes. What you're actually spraying is an unstable mixture that applies unevenly. Third, on many modern car interiors, particularly vegan leather seats and polyurethane-coated surfaces, mineral oil cannot penetrate the tight synthetic weave at all. It simply sits on the surface as a greasy film that transfers to clothing, attracts dust, and creates what detailers call a liquid sandpaper effect from the abrasive dust particles trapped in the oil layer. Fourth, even on receptive PVC surfaces, mineral oil interacts with the polymer differently than animal fats interact with leather. PVC is a synthetic polymer with a relatively dense molecular structure. While some surface-level softening may occur, this is not the same deep structural restoration that occurs when tallow penetrates organic leather fibers. The analogy between ancient leather care and modern plastic treatment is inspiring, but chemically, it's an oversimplification. Part 5. The 3 mistakes that ruin any treatment. Regardless of whether you use baby oil, Armor All, or a professional-grade protectant, 3 universal mistakes will sabotage your results. Mistake 1. Applying product to a dirty surface. Your dashboard may look merely dusty, but trapped in its microscopic texture are layers of old oxidized silicon residue, skin oils from your hands, and fine particulate grime. If you apply any conditioner over this invisible contamination layer, you're not treating the plastic, you're sealing the dirt into the surface permanently. Always clean first with a damp microfiber cloth or a pH-balanced automotive interior cleaner. Mistake 2. Using too much product. Whether it's oil or protectant, excess product that the surface cannot absorb will sit on top, oxidize, attract dust, and create the very haze you're trying to eliminate. Apply 2 or 3 sprays onto your cloth, never directly onto the dashboard, and work it in with slow, even strokes. Less is always more. Mistake 3. Equating shine with health. This is the deepest trap. We've been trained to believe that a glossy, wet-looking dashboard is a protected dashboard. It isn't. A properly maintained polymer surface looks deep, matte, and rich, like the factory finish the day the car was built. A blindingly shiny surface usually means there's a thick layer of something sitting on top that shouldn't be there. Part 6. What professional detailers actually use. So if Armor All offers UV protection but sits on the surface, and baby oil darkens the appearance but leaves the plastic defenseless against the sun, what's the real answer? Professional detailers converged on this solution years ago. Water-based synthetic protectants with built-in UV absorbers. The most well-known example is 303 Aerospace Protectant, originally engineered for aviation and marine applications where UV exposure is extreme and material failure is not an option. Products like 303 are formulated to bond to the polymer surface at the molecular level while depositing UV-blocking compounds that absorb and deflect ultraviolet radiation. They contain no silicone and no petroleum oils. They dry to a clean, matte finish that repels dust rather than attracting it. According to the manufacturer, 303 Aerospace Protectant blocks up to 98% of UV radiation when applied properly and reapplied every 30 to 45 days. Is it a perfect solution? No. It costs 3 to 4 times more than Armor All. It requires regular reapplication, and it still cannot reverse plasticizer migration that has already occurred. Once those internal conditioning agents have left the polymer, no topical product can replace them. But it represents the closest modern equivalent to what our ancestors understood instinctively. Protect from the inside out and shield against the elements simultaneously. Deep nourishment plus environmental defense. Part 7. Honest limitations when none of this works. There's a threshold beyond which no consumer product, not baby oil, not 303, not anything you can buy in a store, will save your dashboard. If the PVC has already lost a critical percentage of its plasticizers, it is structurally compromised. The surface is no longer faded. It is physically degraded at the molecular level. Signs you've crossed this threshold: deep cracks that follow the grain pattern of the texture, sections of dashboard that feel genuinely hard and rigid rather than slightly yielding, or pieces that are visibly warped or pulled away from their mounting points. At this stage, the only real options are professional dashboard restoration, which involves specialized coatings and dyes applied under controlled conditions, or replacement. No amount of oil, silicone, or protectant will reverse molecular-level polymer degradation. Pretending otherwise would be dishonest, and that's not what we do here. The best strategy is prevention. Regular cleaning, UV protective treatment every month, and whenever possible, using a windshield sunshade when parked in direct sun. The $5 sunshade in your trunk is, ironically, the single most effective dashboard protectant you own. Conclusion: the deeper lesson. So what can we actually take away from the battle between a $5 bottle of baby oil and a 60-year-old automotive empire? The survivalists of the past had the philosophy right. True preservation comes from within, not from a superficial coating. But they were working with organic materials that respond to deep nourishment in ways that synthetic polymers simply don't. We can honor their wisdom without pretending the chemistry is identical. And the modern solution requires something our ancestors never needed: protection against an invisible threat. UV radiation doesn't care how well you've oiled your dashboard. Without a molecular shield, the sun will destroy it regardless. The real lesson, the one that extends far beyond car care, is this: don't confuse a shiny surface for genuine health. The prettiest exterior means nothing if the structure underneath is starving. And the best protection combines deep maintenance with a defense against the threats you can't see. Take care of what matters to you: your tools, your vehicle, your own body. Not with quick fixes and superficial shine, but with honest assessment, real nourishment, and consistent protection against the invisible forces that wear everything down over time. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this shifted your perspective, subscribe to Historia Prime and leave a comment below. What's the biggest maintenance mistake you've ever made on your car? What do you actually use on your dashboard? Until next time, keep looking beneath the surface. The greatest lessons for our future are always hiding in the past.